Hi, everybody. Welcome. Today is November 2nd, 2023. And today we're going to have a discussion about some of the new things that are happening in KubeStellar. But before we do that, I will go ahead and read our contributor code of conduct. Uh, as contributors and maintainers in the CNCF community and in the interest of fostering an open and welcoming community, we pledge to respect all people who contribute through reporting issues, posting feature requests, updating documentation, submitting pull requests or patches, and other activities. We are committed to making participation in the CNCF community a harassment-free experience for everyone, regardless of level of experience, gender identity and expression, sexual orientation, disability, personal appearance, body size, race, ethnicity, age, religion, or nationality. So basically, what those two paragraphs mean, just be nice to each other, please. Thank you very much for observing our rules. I don't see any new faces on the call, so I won't call anybody out. The call is being recorded, so if you don't wish to be on camera, please turn it off. And if you don't wish to be on the recording, please drop now. To join this agenda and populate our attendee list, please go to kubestellar.io/join us. And if you're watching the recording, you can do that then, and you can also get access to this. So let me just clean up here a little bit. I don't see these folks on here. Thank you, Nick, for putting your name down. Braulio, if you want to add yours here, let me just do that for you. All right, some big stuff coming up. Next week is KubeCon, so we'll have some comments, discussions about that. All right, so decoupling of KCP, there's been some good work here. Jun has been instrumental, I think, working on Kube-bind. So, Jun, you want to give us an update on Kube-bind and how things are going?
Right now, we're using Kube-bind to replacing in the progress of replacing KCP-bind from the ESPW to other workspaces. Right now, we were able to bind necessary KS kubestellar APIs from the ESPW to every inventory management workspace and every workload management workspace. The next step would be working with the Mailbox workspaces because that's a bit more trickier than the previous two because we're going to core the binding command from inside the Mailbox controller. So that's the next step to take. Another next step to take is to remove the KCP bind stuff in our init process because right now the KCP bound APIs and kube-bind bound APIs coexist in the IID container. So that's the current status. We are making steady progress on this front.
Okay, thank you, Jun. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. So containerization, I think a couple of updates here. So on Brew, I was able to update the Brew, the names of our Brew packages. It used to be kubestellar_CLI and KCP_CLI, and now they are KCP-CLI and kubestellar-CLI. So that's more consistent with what the rest of the Brew community expects. And so we've gone ahead and done that, and I think it worked out pretty well. I wanted to, while we're on the subject, we've got a new homepage and spent some time putting this together over the weekend, last weekend. Some interesting challenges in doing that, but suffice it to say, it works nicely both on the screen and on a phone. So it does compress down and show off better. We used our KubeStellar font for the top here. Of course, connections to GitHub and Slack directly right there. Call to action. Come join us. Documentation will lead you to either main or stable, depending on which way you've come in here. If you've gone through kubestellar.io, you'll wind up on main. So there you are. You can also come in through stable as well. The getting started will trip you on over to our latest quick start using kind. This is a new advent also for us. So this is a brand new quick start, both on Kind and on OpenShift. We're very proud of the work that we've done here. We think we've made it more resilient and easier to use, and also have made some areas where we pointed out specifics that you should be paying close attention to, so that later on when we add more items, like how to upsync a resource and how to create but not overwrite a synchronized resource, this will be important as a means of letting you know how exactly do you modify an edge placement object in order to get the results that you want. So there are two modes of using the user quick start. One is, of course, deploying it across kind clusters or OpenShift and then using it. And then there's the second portion, or the bottom portion, which is just concerned with how to use an existing KubeStellar environment. And so both of these we think will be instrumental in helping the community understand how to install KubeStellar and how to use it. On another note, we've also got a new version of KubeStellar that's been released. So this week we've released version 0.12.0. This is our latest stable version. We'll be updating it in the repo today. As a matter of fact, we'll do it right now. Here's the ceremony. It is now the latest release. So that should be reflected shortly on our site. Okay. Yeah, this is cached, but it'll update to 0.12 soon. So we're heading into a period of some changes that will be disruptive to our main branch. And so dot 12 may be the last release for a few weeks, but suffice it to say, we'll get back to making regular releases after that. So I think what I'm going to do at this point is, so I'll just put in that I renamed the plugins. Rename to remove underscore. Now KubeStellar -CLI and KCP-CLI. Very okay. And then in the quick start, two new quick starts. They are user-quickstart-kind and user-quickstart-OpenShift. All right, and then that should do it. Okay. Any questions on Brew or Helm or any of the other containerization effort? Okay. All right, update on one-to-one status. Jun, you want to give us any update you have on Argo? And I understand that there's some work going on with, there's some initial discussions with Flux.
Yeah, we recently have some engagement with the Flux community. They were interested in working with us to come up with some reference architecture for multi-cluster management. And we realized that this is very similar to what we are doing right now to come up with the similar reference architecture for Argo to manage multiple clusters. So I'm working on this. The first plan is to come up with a very high-level design, maybe just one slice or image that Andy can share and discuss when he has initial contact with those folks in KubeCon. And later, we are going to come up with some more concrete demos, videos, etc., and try to talk to them again. That's the plan.
Okay. It's in discussions with ArgoCD or Flux at KubeCon NA. 6 tonight. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
All right. Okay. All right. What do we got? So here's the update on KubeCon North America. So, John, we had an update from you last time we spoke on Shanghai. Thank you very much. We'll be talking more about North America in the weeks to come. And next week I'll be leaving to go there on Sunday, returning back at the end of the week. We've also got EU coming up. EU is in Paris in, I believe, March in the spring. And Paolo and I have been working on abstracts, and we've added a talk there. one of the two open slots that we have in order to give talks. Actually, each person gets the ability to do that. So if you have two of the same people on the same talk, then you're down to having one on your own or one more with a group. So that's how they limit participation that way, or limit the ability to apply. Or you can apply as many times as you like, but then you've got to pull down certain ones. So we'll wait for approval on those, review and approval potentially. We'll see. For the North America, what we've got planned is I'll be talking on behalf of the IoT working group for Edge. I've been working with a couple of folks from Cisco and working inside the working group on something called the Edge Native Application Design Behaviors white paper. Pretty cool. It talks about 7 major behaviors you should consider when building out edge applications, having to do with things like scale, autonomy, disposability, capability, or self-awareness, data persistence, metrics and logs, and operations. I've gone ahead and prepared a slide deck to show at the show, and it's available here. We're just going over some of the, we have a sample application that the folks from Cisco have imparted, and we'll be discussing that more at the show. We've got about a 30-minute slot that we've signed up for, and that should be pretty interesting to see how that comes together. So that'll be on Monday during the Kubernetes Edge Day. We've got we were going to have t-shirts, but I was too late to get the order in, so that did not happen. We do have stickers for KubeStellar, pretty cool contoured ones. So I don't have a sample in front of me now. I'll be picking them up this afternoon. But yeah, swing by, find me, and come get one. I think you'll like it. I can't wait to put one on my own laptop. And we have a lightning talk, which will be a 15-minute talk inside the booth. I have a giveaway. I have 2 different Lego sets. It's an X-Wing or a TIE Fighter. Let me show you what those look like. So celebrate the interstellar theme or the interplanetary theme. We have 2, let's see. Ooh, can I get it? Yeah, that's weird. Okay, well, with the background, it's not really showing up. But anyway, you get the idea. They're Lego sets, bona fide Lego sets. So we'll be doing those giveaways at the booth. And that should do it for KubeCon. Any questions on KubeCon, either North America, EU, or Shanghai? All right. Let's move on. All right. I think all right, we don't have anybody on today to talk about versioning, but we've been making some more strides there. So Paolo, why don't you give us an update on KubeFlex if you want to?
Yeah, quick update. I've been working on new releases for KubeFlex. We are currently at 0.25, and the main changes are the support for deploying KubeFlex in OpenShift, and also be able to, if you're using kind, to use an existing kind cluster as long as you have already deployed your ingress on kind and set up for pass-through. So because there was some folks that were interested to say, well, I have my own kind, I just won't use that. And same thing for OpenShift. Also, we did some documentation for folks that won't use directly hand to install KubeFlex instead of using the KFlex CLI. So there is some documentation now in the user guide for KubeFlex, where you can just use the standard Helm install for regular cluster or OpenShift. And then in general, more tasty, more stability. And that's pretty much what we have today in the latest version. Thank you.
Thank you, Paolo. Looking great. Great job. Thanks for keeping this going.
Mm-hmm.
I think so KubeFlex plays an integral role in the new version of KubeStellar that's coming out that will be decoupled from KCP. Care to comment on that at all?
Yeah, so this is really the sort of one of the providers for the upcoming space framework. It's probably the first one we're gonna start using. Of course, we're open to use other type of providers. KCP is also one that is gonna be part of the space framework. But initially, we're gonna use kubeflex. kubeflex provides this lightweight, essentially API servers or control planes that are sort of the base for spaces. And so with kubeflex and the space provider, you can easily create instances of API servers and minimal controllers that are associated with those API servers. And the most lightweight approach is where we actually share database on the backend. So we don't have to bring up a database for each one of those spaces in kubeflex. We have an implementation with Postgres and use also Kind, which is another community project that allow Kubernetes API server to use instead of the default etcd to use existing database, SQL database like Postgres. With that approach, we can share the same database for multiple API servers and spaces. And also we have the option that is not currently implemented, I have to say, but that's also a future in our roadmap for kubeflex is to the ability also to say, well, I want to run with my own dedicated database like etcd, for example, that we also can be brought up in the same namespace with API server. And that depends also on the type of scenario, type of usage you plan for that. So anyway, the idea is really to to provide this sort of in the middle approach between having a full cluster, right, for space versus having KCP workspace that is more, we know it's more lightweight. But somehow in the middle, we can use now upstream Kubernetes API servers running in our hosted cluster. That makes somehow a relatively cost-effective solution. We did some measure also running in OpenShift. We see that a single control plane takes about 300 megabytes of memory. So we should be able to run a decent number in an OpenShift cluster, for example, or hosting cluster based on the memory that you have available. So that's pretty much where
What is so is that our footprint? That's not our footprint. That's
the footprint just for one space with the kubeflex.
for one space with okay, got it.
So
Okay.
you should be able to run easily, handful of spaces without really taking too much resources with this approach.
Okay. And what you said was interesting about, so if I understood you correctly, you're talking about using separate, the potential to use other options than etcd for object storage.
Yeah, currently the default is Postgres. That's what we are using because that was sort of the solution to give at least a decent scale in terms of storage, right? We're not limited to the size of etcd, right? Storage. We can scale much more than that. But of course, there could be some performance impact in terms of throughput latency, right? So if you want to create a space where you need certain performance characteristics, the idea is to give the option to have your own dedicated etcd on that, right? But for example, if you're using spaces, for example, workload definition space, we don't really need to have a lot of, I don't think we see, for those type of space, I don't see a lot of issues, right? Probably those can be created on the shared one. For the mailbox, of course, it depends, right? Initially, I don't expect a lot of load because a mailbox, a space is pretty much dedicated to one sinker. As we move to a model later, probably in the future, where we use namespace as a mailbox in a space, that may be a case where we have to explore which solution works best, right? The shared database, because we give us the storage scalability, but it may have more latency. And that may be acceptable also in some cases, right? Even if the sinker takes a little longer to downstream something, maybe still acceptable. We have to look at the trade-offs, right? So
Okay.
the point is we provide the flexibility based on the type of load and scenario. You may choose the best solution, the best fit in terms of database approach.
So Paulo, how does that work is there ever a necessity when you have multiple control planes running and they each have, and in the case of, I mean, this is probably an issue whether we have multiple control planes running, whether they're using etcd or Postgres, but how is there ever a requirement to unify or federate any of the data that's in either in each of those instances. I mean, I think we do when you do. So I'm looking at it from a user's perspective or an operator's perspective when they run a kubectl get, right?
Mhm.
And they want the object that they're getting. At this point, you'd have to be in context, correct, with the correct
Correct.
workspace
Correct.
in order, or in a correct control plane in order to
Yes.
get the answer you want, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. We don't have a solution right now for that, right? There are
Right.
projects, as you know, in the community
Yes.
that are addressing that scenario. For example, Clusterpedia is one that
Mhm.
give you this sort of search and federation across multiple clusters, right? So we could probably look at some approach like that.
Yep.
Or because we have, if you're using the shared database, everything is in the database, right? So in theory, you could write queries in the backend to go to that database and retrieve all the objects
Right.
for all those different control planes or API servers. And
Right.
with that query, of course, you don't have really a kube interface on that. So you'd have also to think about you make this kube like. So that is probably a more complex problem. But I believe there are approaches we can consider there, like I said, integrating with other projects or building a way to create our own queries on the database and so on.
Right. Very good. Okay. Yeah, I think I remember we spoke about this offline, but I still owe the folks at Clusterpedia a call. I didn't get in contact with them for some reason, so I'm glad we had this discussion.
Yeah, I
I
think that
will
will be an interesting probably approach, at least to give us, this more
yeah.
ability to interoperate with other projects in the community. I think Clusterpedia is already integrated with some project in the cluster management space. So maybe KubeStellar can be another one, right? They could integrate with.
All right. So, hey, folks at Clusterpedia, if you're watching this, we'd really like to talk more to you about presenting multiple API machineries as one. I really think it might be worth a partnership discussion. Okay. Thanks, Paolo. Anything else you want to add?
No, that was all. Thank you.
All right. I took a note on Clusterpedia. Thanks for the reminder.
You're welcome.
All right. So let's move on. We did in retrospect, Sprint 5 was really amazing. I don't know. The numbers here are just off the charts. Of course, this says nothing to sizing, but we had 91 issues and PRs combined completed in the month of October, which is staggering. I mean, that's just an amazing number. That's like three issues average a day or PRs a day, and that's not counting, and I'm counting weekends at that. So it's actually more if you compress it. So you figure, yeah, so about 4 issues a day, working day. That's pretty amazing. So yeah, our velocity is definitely increasing. There are more people interested in the project, which is fantastic, and I think that's going to really pay off in the future. So long as we stay focused and stay in the scope that we have, I think we're in good shape. I'll make a couple mentions of a few things here. So, Braulio, can you talk a little bit about, I know you've been talking more about scale and performance testing of KubeStellar. You want to give us some update on where you're at with that?
Sure. We have a large scale deployment of KubeStellar. So we wanted to measure the performance of the KubeStellar connect to two remote sync clusters when it is when we are deploying workloads at a large scale and with different frequency per se. So and to achieve that, so we are starting by using cluster, the Kubernetes open source tool cluster loader to generate workloads with the different frequencies and size. And we are now we wanna deploy our own CR, so to generate the workloads, and we are focused on using the MCAD apparatus per se. So that's the first set of experiment. I'm now in the process of testing cluster loader to generate use to generate our own specific CRs for MCAD per se. And the second component of these experiments. So we also want to measure the latency of the operations, like the kind of understand the life cycle of a workload when you apply on the KubeStellar workload description workspace until it syncs to the remote workload description cluster. We want to understand the latency of the operations between all the steps, each of the steps on the life cycle of the workload, and trying to identify if there is any bottleneck when we are operating under large stress.
Okay. Any questions for Braulio? Okay. Braulio, what do you anticipate having some initial results in the future?
Next to next KubeStellar core, and if that has some preliminary results and some additional information about these experiments.
Okay, very good. Okay, thanks for the update, Braulio. Anything else anything else you're working on you want to comment on?
No, that's it from my side. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Braulio. All right, let's move on. So, Nick, I put you in here next. Would you mind give us an update on the plugins?
Sure. So I'm working on issue number 414. This is converting over various scripts that are written in Bash over to a Go implementation. At this point, I've got sort of a structure with Cobra worked out for the command line interface, and I think I have that working the way I want it to. And at this point, I've implemented the remove WDS function, and now I'm moving on to implementing the remove location function.
Oh, great. Okay, great. You're making great progress, it sounds.
Yep, thanks.
Thank you. All right, Nick. Let me move back to the. All right. Good progress. Which one did you implement it already?
Remove WDS.
Okay. FKA WW, and the next one you're working on
is remove location.
Thank you. All right. Measurements. Possible. X. Okay, Franco, you're up next. Anything you want to talk about in particular, or is it okay to talk about resilient connectivity at this point, or what do you think?
Maybe I can say a couple of words of what the issue is.
Yeah.
There's not a solution yet. So we, upon restarting the KCP portion of our deployment, we are experiencing an issue where the Kubernetes user created by KCP by default changes the token. This invalidates basically the kube config that we use to access kubestellar/KCP, although we are maintaining the same certificates and TLS. This is a known issue that we didn't know initially, and we're looking into a couple of solutions. Number one, we'll try to investigate if the latest Helm chart releases in KCP deals with this problem by generating a valid persistent user across restart and redeployment. If that's the case, we're going to try to understand how that process works and try, if possible, to port that to version 0.11, which is the latest KCP version that we can use for KubeStellar. If that's not the case, and even their Helm deployment does not persist the token for the user, then we'll have to investigate how to create a user and how to provide a Kubernetes user ourselves and how to provide that to KCP. So both are ongoing, and if anybody in the community is interested to help, I would really appreciate it, since I'm not very expert on Kubernetes uses.
Okay. Thank you very much, Franco. Appreciate the update. Looking forward to hearing good things in the future about this. I think this will go a long way in helping us with upgrade scenarios, with failure scenarios. It'll make the project a lot more resilient. And I know that there's a few projects right now that could really use cases, I would say, that can use this. In particular, it's the European Space Agency, the project that we're working on there, and we're trying to figure out how to keep KubeStellar and the sinkers working together when a satellite goes out of contact for some period of time due to geosynchronous orbit or non-geosynchronous orbit, and then when it comes back online, can't call back to KubeStellar core. So instead of us having to go up into space, pull that satellite back down, replace its configuration, and then put it back up into space, which can be kind of expensive these days. It would be better that we try to make KubeStellar a bit more resilient. So I think this has direct implication on that project, and I also think it has direct implications on the multi-cloud computer work that we're doing as well with MCAD. So I think I see a great deal of value coming from this exploration of this issue and eventually solving it, or at least understanding it better. So I thank you very much for your contribution. Okay, folks, I know we're only at half past, but I don't have anything else to review today. Would anybody else like to talk about anything? I'll open the floor. All right, silence is deafening. All right, folks, we have another call scheduled in 2 weeks' time. After that'll be, I'll have a bit of a postmortem on KubeCon at that point, and look forward to having some of this information about measurement of KubeStellar at scale at that point from Braulio. I hope to have some updates on KCP decoupling from Jun, and like to hear more about how that includes KubeFlex. And I think Nick will make even more progress on the native Go KubeStellar kubectl commands plugins. That'll be fantastic. And maybe we even make some good progress on the survivable and persistent KubeStellar kube user. So we'll see how that goes. All right, folks, thanks so much for joining. I'll post the recording as soon as it's available. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye.